Let's start with Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny, as we know, who's a Marine who stepped in when Jordan Neely was shouting threats and abuse at people on the subway. He put his arms around his neck. He tried to take him down. He took him down to the ground. Another man, a black man, helped Penny try to restrain Neely as he was going into something of a hysterical state. And unfortunately, Neely passed away despite the efforts that Penny and others went through to get him medical attention and to revive him. Penny is facing 19 years in prison, as we know, to this day. He's raised some money for his defense, but he's facing a very serious criminal trial. There's another story. 20-year-old Jordan Williams. Now, Jordan Williams, on the 13th of June, just a couple of weeks ago this happened, was on the subway system as well. And he was with his girlfriend, and a man came up to him, started some kind of a squabble with him. DeVictor Wodrago, I think that's how you say his name. They had an exchange, and Mr. Udrago both punched the defendant, or now no longer defendant, he's walking free, punched Jordan Williams and punched his girlfriend. Now, Jordan, and I think tried to choke her too, is what I read. So he put his hands on both of them, assaulted both of them. There are multiple eyewitnesses to this. And there's also video. Wodrago was choking Williams and punched his girlfriend. And then Jordan Williams, just we'll discuss some of the aspects of this specifics. Jordan Williams is black. I don't know if Wodrago, I don't know I haven't seen a photo of him. But anyway, Williams defended himself with a knife, and he killed Wodrago. And initially, he was charged with the manslaughter, Clay. Those charges have been dropped by the district attorney in New York, and so he is now walking free. Now, I would argue that this is the right decision, that Jordan Williams, that if somebody attacks you on a subway and not only attacks you, but then punches your female companion, your girlfriend, wife, girlfriend, whatever it may be, in the face, that at that point, you got to do what you got to do to defend yourself. You don't have to wait to see if this person produces a knife first. You don't have to wait to see if he... So I stand with Jordan Williams on this one. I think Jordan Williams was right to defend himself, had the basic human God-given right to defend himself and his loved one in this situation. But I just have to say, it's a lot of people, Clay, looking at this, they're pointing out, well, Daniel Penny steps in, doesn't use a knife, doesn't use that level of deadly force. He's trying to de-escalate a situation by wrestling. If he wanted to, he was bigger and stronger than Neely. He could have punched him out, could have taken him to the ground and, tried to mash his face in. But instead, he took him to the ground, tried to calm him down, but he did apply pressure around his neck, and he did die. Neely faces 19 years in prison. Why?
Because he's white. I mean, that's the reason. And this is unfortunate because justice is supposed to be blind. But there are subtle distinctions, right? This is where when you look at it from a legal perspective, and let's pretend that we are lawyers, Daniel Penny, to my knowledge, Buck, correct me if I'm wrong, was not directly attacked physically by the guy that he put into the sleeper hole.
That is a distinction.
Basically,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
So there hadn't been a physical attack. If there had been, then his defense of putting him in a chokehold, I think, would have been 100% okay. But let me just say this. What I've read about the individual who had the charges dropped is that, again, he was attacked, but he used a knife. Intent matters here in some way, right? When you use a knife to defend yourself and you thrust that knife to try to stab someone, it is reasonably expected that a severe injury in the person that you are stabbing could occur.
It's lethal force. If you're stabbing someone, it's lethal force. Yeah.
In the Daniel Penny case, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Buck, but when you subdue someone by putting them in a chokehold, the idea is not to kill them, right? Like, you are just trying to render them not able to continue to make a threat. So lethal force was used, in response, let's be honest, based on the story, a punch, which typically is not lethal force. Usually when someone punches you, the idea that you would stab them back is an escalation in that defense mechanism. Whereas the chokehold, to me, both of these guys should be not charged. But if I were going to charge one of them, the guy who used the knife, to me, would be engaging in a more violent act than the guy who tried to put somebody in a chokehold.
Just some of the details here. Williams, who is now walking free, and just to reiterate, I think that is the right decision in this case. This is the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office that was weighing in on this one.
Which, to be fair, Buck, his mom, the Williams mom, said that Daniel Penny shouldn't be charged either. So she's been consistent here as well. Do you have that quote? I mean,
Yes.
to her credit, she's saying both of these guys are trying to protect themselves and make the subway safer.
You're starting to see this more and more where New Yorkers in general,
white, black, Asian,
races,
Hispanic,
of all backgrounds, are like, we just all want to be safe on the subway. They don't want white people being assaulted. They don't want black people being assaulted. Asian, Hispanic. New Yorkers, we want everybody to be safe on this. They have that right to not be in this country. Look, I know it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be criminals in any society. 8.5 million people. There's going to be some, but it's far too common. It's far too regular, and we're seeing this, right? We're all aware. The Udrago, I'm sorry, it's one of the, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Udrago came up to Williams and said something very crass to his girlfriend. So he initiated an aggressive exchange with the girlfriend. And then Williams said, hey, basically don't say something. Don't say that. And then Udrago started trying to choke Williams and punched his girlfriend in the face. Every guy listening to this knows this situation, it's all bets are off time. If a man is punching your girlfriend, your wife, your sister, your female colleague in the face, you got to do whatever you got to do to intervene and stop that right away. And I just look at this and I say to myself, Jason Williams, he's a young black man, and New Yorkers want Jason Williams on their subway car. They want a guy who's going to stand up for himself. They want a guy who's going to stand up for his girlfriend. Like, this is, he's minding his business. He's trying to just go about his day. He didn't start any problem with anybody, and he stood up for himself and somebody else, and someone lost their life in this, but you're not allowed to try to choke and punch people. Daniel Penny's also someone that people want on their subway, as you point out, including Williams' mother. The disparate treatment here is very hard for people to ignore under the circumstances.
I think that's right. And again, we've said this from the beginning. The only reason anybody knows Daniel Penny's name is because he's white.
I'm sorry, I said Jason Williams. I meant to say Jordan Williams. Pardon me. There's Jordan Williams is his name.
The only reason people know Daniel Penny is because he's white. And the only reason that he was charged with a crime is because he's white. I mean, this is the exact example of Lady Justice not being blind, right? Alvin Bragg is charging Daniel Penny because he's a white guy who choked a black guy. And by the way, if this guy on the subway had also been white, this wouldn't have been a story. If the guy who choked this guy had been black instead of Daniel Penny, it wouldn't be a story either. It's only a story because a white guy did it to a black guy.
And Williams, you look at the backgrounds of these individuals. Williams, no criminal record of any kind whatsoever, never been in trouble with the law. Yet he knew that he had to carry a knife on the subway because of exactly a situation like this possibly rising. Couldn't count on the authorities to keep the subway safe enough. The other guy, career criminal, lots of arrests.
You typically don't hit a woman, Buck, out of nowhere, right? If you're going to hit a woman, you're typically going to have had a criminal history in your past. Just tossing it out there. Most people out of nowhere don't suddenly decide to strike women. It's typically something that somebody who has a violent criminal past is doing.
Yeah. Jordan Neely punched a senior citizen female in the face, broke her nose and her eye socket, and that was one of many, many times he was arrested. But the city of New York decided they didn't want to punish him too harshly.